When my best friend begged me to help her fiancé through his panic attacks, I thought I was just being a good friend. But sitting in that expensive car at 2 a.m., holding a billionaire's trembling hands, I realized I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm about to tell you a story that destroyed a friendship, broke 3 hearts, and taught me that sometimes doing the right thing can lead to the most wrong feelings imaginable. My name is Lily, and 6 months ago, I was just a regular 24-year-old art student trying to make ends meet. I had my small apartment, my part-time job at a coffee shop, and my best friend Hannah, who I'd known since we were 7 years old. Hannah and I were inseparable. We'd been through everything together: high school drama, college stress, family problems, bad breakups. She was the sister I never had, and I would have done anything for her. If you've ever been caught between loyalty and love, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is going to mess with your head in ways you never expected. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. 2 years ago, Hannah met Adrian at some fancy charity event. Adrian Coleman, yeah, that Adrian Coleman. The tech billionaire who was on every magazine cover. The guy who built his empire from nothing and was worth more money than most people could even imagine. Hannah was working as an event coordinator, and somehow, this incredibly successful, gorgeous man fell for her. I mean, who wouldn't? Hannah is beautiful, smart, funny. She lights up every room she enters. Within 6 months, they were living together in his penthouse. Within a year, he proposed with a ring that probably cost more than my entire college tuition. Hannah was living the fairy tale every girl dreams about. But here's the thing about fairy tales: they don't tell you about the parts that happen behind closed doors. About 4 months ago, Hannah started coming to me with concerns. She'd tell me that Adrian would have these episodes where he'd just shut down completely. He'd get this look in his eyes like he was drowning, and she didn't know how to help him. "Lily, I don't know what to do," she told me one evening over coffee. "He has these panic attacks, and when I try to help, he just pushes me away. He says I don't understand, that I make it worse." I could see how much this was hurting her. Hannah is a fixer. She wants to solve everyone's problems, but with Adrian, nothing she tried seemed to work. "Maybe he needs professional help," I suggested. "A therapist or something." "He won't go," she said, frustrated. "He says therapists are just people who want to dig into his business and sell stories to the press. He doesn't trust anyone." Then came the conversation that changed everything. Hannah called me on a Tuesday night, crying. "Lily, I need your help. Adrian had another episode today, and I can't handle it anymore. I love him, but I don't know how to be what he needs." "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "You're so good with people. You always know what to say when I'm upset. You have this calming presence that I don't have. Could you maybe talk to him, just as a friend?" I was confused. "Hannah, I barely know him. We've met maybe 3 times. That's exactly why it might work," she said. "You're not emotionally involved. You're not trying to fix him or change him. You're just you, and you're my best friend, so he'd trust you." The idea seemed crazy, but Hannah was desperate. She explained that Adrian had been getting worse, that his panic attacks were affecting his work, their relationship, everything. "I just need someone to be there for him when I can't be," she said. "Someone who can help him through the bad moments without all the relationship pressure." Against my better judgment, I agreed. How hard could it be, right? I'd just be a friend, someone to talk to when he needed it. I was doing it for Hannah, to help save their relationship. God, I was so naive. The first time I went to Adrian's penthouse, I was terrified. This was a world I'd never been part of. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, art that probably cost more than most people's houses. Adrian answered the door himself, and I was struck by how different he looked from the confident businessman I'd seen in photos. His hair was messy, his expensive shirt wrinkled, and there was something raw and vulnerable in his eyes. "You're Lily," he said. It wasn't a question. "Hannah sent me," I said awkwardly. "She thought maybe you could use someone to talk to." He let me in, and we sat in his living room that overlooked the entire city. For the first 10 minutes, we just sat in silence. I didn't know what to say, and he seemed to be fighting some internal battle. Then, out of nowhere, his breathing started getting rapid and shallow. His hands began shaking, and I could see the panic taking over. Without thinking, I moved closer to him. "Adrian, look at me," I said softly. "Breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Something about my voice seemed to reach him. He focused on my eyes, and slowly, his breathing began to match mine. After what felt like forever, the panic passed. "Thank you," he whispered. "Hannah usually just tells me to calm down, or asks if I need water. Everyone handles things differently," I said. "There's no right or wrong way to help someone." That first meeting led to another, and another. What started as emergency calls became regular check-ins. Adrian would text me when he felt an episode coming on, and I'd either talk him through it over the phone or, if it was really bad, come over. I learned that his panic attacks weren't just random, they were triggered by stress, by memories of his childhood in foster care, by the constant pressure of running a billion-dollar company. Everyone saw the successful businessman, but underneath, he was still that scared kid who'd been abandoned by everyone who was supposed to love him. "Do you know what it's like to have everyone want something from you?" he asked me one evening, as we sat on his balcony. "Every conversation, every relationship, every interaction, there's always an agenda." "That must be exhausting," I said. "It is, but with you, I don't feel that. You're not impressed by the money or the success. You just see me." And that was the problem. I was starting to see him. Really see him. Not the billionaire, not Hannah's fiancé, but Adrian, the man who donated millions to foster care programs anonymously, who remembered how I liked my coffee after I mentioned it once, who had this incredible mind but was drowning in loneliness. About 6 weeks into our arrangement, something shifted. Our conversations weren't just about his panic attacks anymore. We talked about everything: art, books, dreams, fears. He was genuinely interested in my life, my struggles as an art student, my hopes for the future. "Why are you with Hannah?" I asked him one night. The question slipped out before I could stop it. He was quiet for a long time. "Because she's everything I thought I wanted," he said finally. "She's beautiful, successful, stable. She doesn't have the baggage I have." "But do you love her?" Another long pause. "I thought I did, but love is supposed to feel easy, right? It's supposed to feel like coming home." The way he looked at me when he said that made my heart skip. I quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. The seed of something dangerous had been planted. The emotional affair, because that's what it was. Even if we never called it, that intensified over the next month. Late-night phone calls that had nothing to do with panic attacks. Text messages that made me smile like an idiot. Moments of connection that felt more intimate than anything I'd ever experienced. Hannah had no idea. She was so relieved that Adrian was doing better, so grateful that I was helping, that she never questioned why he seemed happier, why his episodes were less frequent. "I don't know what you're doing, but it's working," she told me. "He's like a different person. Thank you for saving our relationship." Each word was like a knife in my chest. I wasn't saving their relationship, I was destroying it. And the worst part was, I didn't want to stop. The moment I knew I was in too deep was during one of his episodes. It was worse than usual. He was hyperventilating, completely overwhelmed by a hostile takeover attempt at his company. I held his hands, talked him through it, and when he finally calmed down, he looked at me with such gratitude, such love. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he whispered. "You'll never have to find out," I said, and I meant it. That's when I realized I was falling for my best friend's fiancé. And from the way he was looking at me, I wasn't falling alone. Everything came to a head 3 weeks ago. Adrian's company was facing a massive crisis, a data breach that threatened to destroy everything he'd built. He'd been working 20-hour days, barely sleeping, and his anxiety was through the roof. Hannah was out of town for work, and Adrian called me at 2 a.m. I could barely understand him through his panic. I didn't even think. I just grabbed my keys and drove to his penthouse. I found him in his home office, surrounded by papers, his laptop open, completely spiraling. This wasn't just a panic attack, this was a full breakdown. "Adrian, you need to step away from the computer," I said. "I can't," he gasped. "If I don't fix this, everything is over. Everyone who depends on me, all the jobs, the investors. None of that matters if you're dead from a heart attack," I said firmly. "Come on, let's get you some air." I practically dragged him to the balcony. The night air was cold, and slowly, his breathing began to regulate. But when he looked at me, there were tears in his eyes. "I'm so tired, Lily," he whispered. "I'm tired of pretending I'm strong enough for all of this. I'm tired of being alone even when I'm with people." "You're not alone," I said, taking his hands. "You have me." "Do I?" he asked. because sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy, like I'm imagining this connection we have, and that's when it happened. He leaned in, and I didn't pull away. We kissed, and it was everything I'd been trying not to think about for months. It was desperate and tender, and completely wrong and absolutely right all at the same time. When we broke apart, the reality of what we'd done hit me like a truck. "Oh God," I whispered, "Hannah." The next morning, I tried to pretend it never happened. I told myself it was just a moment of weakness, that we could go back to the way things were. But Adrian had other plans. He called off work, something he'd never done in his life, and showed up at my apartment. "We need to talk," he said. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied, not letting him in. "Last night was a mistake." "Was it?" he asked. "Because it felt like the most honest thing I've done in years." "You're engaged to my best friend." "I know," he said quietly. "And that's why I can't marry her." Those words stopped me cold. "Adrian, no, you can't throw away your relationship because of one kiss. It's not about the kiss, Lily. It's about everything. The way you understand me, the way I can be myself with you, the way I've fallen completely in love with you." I wanted to slam the door in his face, but I couldn't, because despite everything, despite the guilt and the wrongness of it all, I loved him too. "This can't happen," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I won't be the reason Hannah gets hurt." "Then what do we do?" he asked. "We stop all of it. No more calls, no more meetings. You marry Hannah, and we pretend this never happened." But Adrian couldn't pretend. 2 days later, he called off the engagement. Hannah was devastated. She called me sobbing, begging me to help her understand what had gone wrong. She had no idea that I was the reason her fairy tale was crumbling. "He said he couldn't marry me because he wasn't in love with me," she cried. "After 2 years, he just realized he's not in love with me. How does that even happen?" I held her while she cried, hating myself with every fiber of my being. When she finally asked me directly if I knew what had changed, if I had any idea why Adrian had suddenly become distant, I lied to her face. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe the stress of the company problems just made him realize what he really wanted." A week later, Hannah found out the truth. I don't know how. Maybe Adrian told her. Maybe she figured it out herself. But she showed up at my apartment with eyes full of hurt and betrayal. "How long?" she asked. "Hannah, I can explain how long have you been sleeping with my fiancé?" "I never slept with him," I said quickly. "We kissed once, that's all. But you fell in love with him." I couldn't deny it. The truth was written all over my face. "You were supposed to help save our relationship," she said. "I trusted you. I trusted you with the most important thing in my life. I know. I'm so sorry." Sorry doesn't fix this, Lily. Sorry doesn't give me back the 2 years I wasted on someone who was in love with my best friend. That was the last time we spoke. Hannah moved out of the city. Adrian has tried to contact me dozens of times, but I've ignored every call, every text, every email. So here I am, 3 months later, having lost my best friend and the love of my life in the same week. Was it worth it? I don't know. I do know that I learned something important. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is try to help someone, because you might just end up helping yourself to feelings you never meant to have. Adrian still sends me letters sometimes. Real letters, not emails or texts. In the last one, he told me he's seeing a therapist now, that he's working on himself. He said he understands why I walked away, but that he'll wait for me as long as it takes. I don't know if I'll ever be ready to face what we did, what we felt. But I do know that love isn't always clean and simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and hurts people you care about. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have walked away before it got complicated? Or would you have fought for love even when it meant hurting someone else? Let me know in the comments below if this story hit you in the feels. Smash that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about love and loyalty. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most important lessons.